Okay. Page 406. So we said that it is through the achila that the moichin come. The main achila is the lechem. The shoyish hachametz b'kedusha elyono. This is the second paragraph here. Is this koch amiyashiv? Says wait, and the only way, and to be misad of the keser is through the ma'aseh tachtonim. That as long as a person is not zocher to masim tovim and simcha and great, b'shleimus, and to break the Yetzirah and all the manias, until he gets to a proper avodas Hashem, as long as he hasn't constructed the keser properly, he cannot get into any kind of chachma, into any kind of asaga. Yichach masech. And we're holding the zeb b'chinas ma in the next paragraph on the bottom.
Hello.
This is what's written in the Zohar Kodesh. This is what's written in the Zohar Kodesh about this union of the shattering of the vessels, the primordial shattering of the vessels, and the death of the malachim, which is the Soda Shvira. Kol reisha de amo, do istakem bekadmisa, les amo mistakna v'chule. Any head of nation doesn't fix himself first, the entire nation that follows him doesn't get fixed either. The main tikkun, she'ikar tikkun, is the tikkun ha-keser. This is the fixing of the keser, shu b'chinas atik. That's the highest and the most exalted of all b'chinas. Shu roish kol ha-moichin v'amides. That's the head of all the moichin and all the mides. Zeh keser and zoichin mesakin ki im ladei ma'aseh tachtonim daika. The way to fashion this particular keser is only through the ma'aseh tachtonim. And this is the chet of this is P'chinas the chet of Adam Arishon that ate from Eitz Hadas Tovera. And this brought about death on him and for generations. For him and for generations. This is Sitra de Moisa, this is Zitzava, this is the Atzvus, this is depression, this is sadness. Odom Arishon Aita Asagosoi Atzua Me'oid Me'oid. The Asag of Odom Arishon was unbelievable. The handicraft of Kodesh Baruch Hu, it's like everything was open to him. All the Malachim were tremendously jealous of Odom Arishon. But the entire sag of Adam Arishon was totally the handiwork of HaKadosh Baruch Hu alone. He didn't have to do anything for it. He didn't do anything. Because he didn't get it a saga through Tefillah and Masim Tevim that he did first. Hashem Yisboch Bo'o Be'atzmoi Ba'asaga Atzuma, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created him, prepackaged, already preloaded with all the software, with all the apps. Everything was in place. Even the battery was loaded. Everything was ready to run. And all the creation and the asaga, everything was by what we call, a supernal, a divine initiation from above. When the world was created, there still wasn't anybody, to awaken, and awaken him from below, as the Sfarim says. It was only awakening from above. There was no awakening from below at all. That's why the rectification, the perfection of Adam and all the universes and all the realms that depend on him, as this it says in Sfar, that everything was hanging and standing until he will daven, and it says, and the Chumash says, and the field didn't grow and this didn't get, because there was no person to daven to bring rain al pnei adama. He says there was no terusa del tata, there was no awakening from below to bring down the rain, from above. Ad Shabbos, and he had to wait, with his you have over there, you have and will wait with his zivug until Shabbos, and will not transgress the chetzes adas. If you would have gone through all these things, he was zoiche to misaken all the oilemes, and he was misaken it the way it will be la'osid lovit. Lichura, it's very strange. What kind of tikkun the oilemes needed, since there was no sin or pgam at all before? And also, what is this inyan of etzadas tovera? But the main tikkun that the oilemes needed to go through at that time, everything was the mystery of the tikkun of shviras hakelim misas avlochim, as the shattering of the vessels and the death of the kings at his own kisvei arizal. And the entire tikkun was necessary because all the oilemes were created without an awakening from below. Everything was the evolution of Hashem from above. He decided he wants to create a world. And that left the subtlest of subtle imperfections in the Bechina of Kesed. And that is the thing that brought about the shattering of the vessels. It's in the Ksubah. It says, even though there was no breakage in the Kesed itself, it was touched by a semblance of Pgam, of Bitul. That main Pgam, the reason for that main Pgam is there was no Iterus Lotat. There was no awakening from below. Because the Kesed, the Miyashav, and the Misadar and Miyashav, it is not fixed, perfectly, unless you actually break the Yetzirah and the Menias, which then what you do is, you take the Yetzirah, and you flip it over to Terv Nifla. Because the Menias becomes Koyach HaMesadav HaMe'akev. When you are able to break the Meniah, the letters of Meniah is the letter of Ne'ima.
What is the Meniah again?
Meniah is an obstacle, barrier. It is Mainea, it prevents access. So Meniah, when you overcome it, it flips over and becomes Ne'ima.
Meaning it protects you.
No, it becomes pleasure. It becomes the tool and the faculty to be masig, whatever that Meniah was preventing me from getting to. You see, you don't know what's your next step, what's your next blood Gemara. Suppose, what are you supposed to do in the center, You don't know. So Kodesh Baruch Hu has to send you a hint and say, listen, this is what you're supposed to work on. So how does it do it? He sends you difficulty. So first of all, it's the first hint. This is where it's at. That's where your next step is. That's the thing that bothers you. Okay? Go ahead, let it rip.
Sorry.
African elephant. Let's go. Anyhow, so we have some African elephant in the shir. It's a very cosmopolitan shir, as you understand.
What's that horn called that the South Africans like to blow?
A zella, I think. I don't know, whatever. Anyhow, be that as it may. So the Rebbe explains that the mania serves really three purposes in separate tears in Likutei. The first thing is it says V'yanu ha'am v'yamdu merachok. Anybody who is just it's just like he's far from Avodas Hashem. He sees the mania, he goes back. That's not for me, It's like everybody wants to be a superstar, but you want to do it in a Cadillac. You don't have to work hard, and climbing the mountain with your teeth. You don't want to do that. If it comes, why not? It's just like but Moshe Rabbeinu, he stepped into the darkness, into the fog, into the cloud. Why? Asher Shama Elokim. This is where Hashem is. Hashem is in the mania. This is how Hashem is telling you what's your next step, what you need to go. What do you have problems with? That is your task. This is where you should be headed. This is where the Kadosh Baruch Hu is. So anybody who's Pchinas Moshe or is a Talmid of Moshe uses the mania, uses the obstacle and the difficulty. First of all, as an information tool to know which way should I go. This is your homework. That's point number one. Point number two is that the mania itself is there because you don't have the tools, the containers, the capacity to contain that goodness which you're chasing, and to assimilate it into yourself and to digest it and to grow with it. So if you were to get that particular madrega, it's like a person winning the lottery, or athletes all of a sudden coming into millions of dollars in one shot. You won't be able to handle that. You don't have the kalim for that. Okay? So the manias that prevent you, that stand between you and that hasaga, and that goodness, overcoming them provides you with the necessary tools to handle the prosperity, that those manias are protecting. That's the second chesed. Kadosh Baruch Hu is in the mania itself. Once you overcome the mania itself becomes, as we said, you decide that you wanna build a home. Okay? You know how to build a home. You know what you would like. Then you start getting, he says, you have to get a permit from the government, and you have to get this, and you have to get that, you have to get this, and you don't have it, you don't have funding, you have to get this, you go to the bank. As you overcome these obstacles one after the other, you acquire the capacity of building a home. Then you can build the other home, with no difficulty at all, right? That's how it's done. And the third purpose for the obstacle, for that challenge, is, the Rebbe says, to stoke your craving and your cheshek for that thing. It gives you a hint of how great or how small that thing which you are chasing is. Because the mania is as great in direct relationship to the greatness of that thing you're chasing. The bigger the treasure that you're hunting for, the bigger the game, the bigger the gun you need. All right? The bigger the mania is. All right? Going to hunt tigers, is different than going to hunt guinea pigs. It's not the same challenge, let's put it this way. It doesn't take as much effort, to catch guinea pig. You know, so the topic of this whole thing is that when you have a mania, that mania gives you the second very important piece of information. The first thing you said is you should know what it is you should go after, but the second thing tells you how much effort you should put into it, how much you should stoke your cheshek, your oomph, your motivation, how much motivation you need to put into this thing. Because the minute that your motivation will be more than the mania will fall automatically. And that's what you need. That's what the mania is for, to stoke up the cheshek. Here are the three things of the mania. There was no mania whatsoever. Adam Arishan came, everything was ready. Okay, so this is a pgam. So the pgam is the only thing is the keser is mistaka b'shleimus when you break the Yetzer Hara. When you break the Yetzer Hara, this is the thing that tells you what is doable, what is not doable. You can't just go ahead and build a home. You have to get the permits first. You have to get the funding in place. You have to do things. So unless you meet those things, and unless you struggle with them, you don't acquire the tools with which to do it. The kesses, the miyashav, is the thing that that puts the things in order. Then you mahapach the Yetzer Hara and the menias to something, to an unbelievably good and wondrous goodness, which is Kinasim. For the menias becomes koach hamesader, which holds and prevents the moichin and the mentalities from going out of the gvul. This is the kesser, that's the main thing. And since Adam Rishon was created without his Adol Tata, there was no awakening from below. So his asoga, no matter how incredible his asoga was, it still didn't have shleimus. The shleimus would have been had he withstood the nisayon of the eating from the Eitz Hadas Tovara. Because the main issue of Eitz Hadas Tovara is that bechina that Kodesh Baruch Hu told him not to eat it. Don't get into starting to think what is good and what is bad. Where does good come from? Where does bad come from? All this chakiris and ideas, why does Hashem do what He does and how He does it and what's the purpose and all this? He says, don't get into it. Why? Because you still don't have the keser. You still don't have the discipline to know when to stop and which way to go and how to guide yourself. Since he still wasn't zoicher to be mesaken the keser. Had he withstood the nisayon and he would daven his davening, he was zoicher to have the keser. He would get these 9 heichalim, these 9 faculties, halls, bishleimus through the Arutza Del Tato. Then the chokehold of Eitz Hadas Tovara would be total misbatel, and the Ikir Achiza of the Eitz Hadas would only have been the primordial shvira that the oilmas were created without the Lord, but that's it. Then everything would have been fixed, everything would have been fine, and there would be no need for misa and so forth and so on. Until now, for